comment, rate, subscribe. Merch in the description. Check out our Facebook pages. We got marketplaces you can buy and sell stuff on. So this is my Zamasu Android 17 Tournament Tide deck. I'll just call it that. So 1 copy of the leader, 4 Zamasu the Divine Immortal, 4 Android 17 Tournament Tide, 4 Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta Rise of the Super Warrior, 4 Vegeta Ready to Rumble, 4 Goku Baby's Minion, 4 Oceanus Shenron, 4 Goku Black Rose, 4 Goku Overflowing Spirit, 4 Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Synergy, 4 Tragedy Overground, 4 All Too Easy, 4 Hit Battlefield Manipulator, 4 Raditz Giant Force, 4 Majin Buu Assault of the Agent of Destruction, and 4 SS4 Goku Protector of the Earth. So the idea, essentially, this is my Zamasu Tragedy Overground deck, just slightly modified, but I took out some other cards and just so we still have the 9-drop Zamasu and the Tragedy Overground, and of course this can get you this, so essentially you have 8 Tragedy Overgrounds in the deck. But I'll name the deck after Android 17 because he's like your main win con, obviously because he's Android 17, right? So he's your main win con. But you do have the tragedy strategy in there. Wanted to make this deck a lot more defensive, so that's where this comes in. This can make tokens that are blockers. This is negate an attack block. This negates an attack, plus this lets you get back your unisons from your unison area or your drop area. So there's synergy with the unisons, obviously. This can negate an attack, and then it can essentially Senzu Beam. So you notice a lot of these cards have the ability to at least try to negate more than one attack, right? Try to defend you against more than one attack. That's what I meant to say. Gohan Baby's Minion, same thing. You play it, Floodgate ability. Your opponent has to send a card from the hand to the bottom of the deck in order to attack. Vegeta Ready Rumble negates an attack. It's also a blocker, so it could potentially stop 2 attacks, as well as if in order for your opponent to attack, they have to place one of their energies into the drop area. So again, another floodgate defense. And then of course Super Saiyan Vegeta just so happens to be a 30k blocker, so that's nice to have a big blocker to block with. But he also helps you ramp, which can obviously help you get to your 9-drop Zamasu or Tragedy Overground strategy. Obviously, ideally you want to get Zamasu out, Divine Immortal Zamasu, so that way you can use the fact that he's a 35k dual attack. You want to be able to use him to swing at your opponent's leader a couple times, and then use the effect of his active main / active battle. And he's indestructible, so pretty much once he hits the field, he'll stick there. But if somebody negates his skill, then obviously that would be a problem. Usually after I play him, I swing with him twice, obviously, right? And then I immediately use his ability just to get the Tragedy Overground into play. Normally I charge Tragedy Overground into my energy area because I can play it from my energy area through the effects of Zamasu. So this always ends up being dedicated energy because of that. But there'll be times where I might hold a copy in my hand just because I know I'm gonna drop this, and then the turn after that I'm dropping this. Whenever I use Vegeta, I always wrap all 4 of the energy, so that way I can obviously play like a 4-drop. But if you're ever in a scenario where like this might pop up, so then you have to put this back in the deck, so you only get 3 energy. Obviously we got Raditz, we have Gohan Baby's Minion, which you can use those energy for just to increase your defense. He's a 30k that you can attack with, but at the end of your turn he restands, so you can block with him, so you can sword and shield strategy, so you can swing with him and block with him, which is always good. Abuni is a good card, don't get me wrong, but this is similar. You could play it, you could swing with it, use it like you would with Abuni, so you get to go wide. But the fact that you can make the tokens are blockers just makes it so much better. Plus he's a double strike on top of that, so this makes double strike. He had 4 tokens, so that's potential 6 damage off of 1 card, so more reason to play, right? And I already got my 4 copies. It's either still in the mail or I already got them. Did I already get them? I don't remember. Either I already got them or they're still in the mail. That reminds me, I got mail today, which is probably these cards. I forgot to open the mail. I left it at home. Damn. I probably got these in the mail today. Anyway, point is really good card, right? Really good card. And first and foremost, you typically want to get one of these in your opening hand, and you want to charge his energy. That way you can play the other copies, obviously. You definitely want less copies of these in the deck. Like, you rather them be in your life or in your hand, because when you play Vegeta, you pretty much want mono blue, right? So you want to reduce the possibility of not ramping the 4 energy, because you prefer the 4 energy. So you typically want to hold on to these, and then if you've got 2 of these in your open hand, keep them. One is you're going to charge turn 1, right? That way it can help you play the second one later on, and that right there is 2 less non-mono blue cards in your deck for the Vegeta play. So there's that. Of course, Oceana is black, right? Yes, she's black. So that also is another color that goes against Vegeta. But from a lot of my testing, doing test hands, whenever I play him, I never seem to not get the mono blue, because there's lots. This is a 60 card deck, so there's a lot of mono blue in here, and there's only 8 cards in the deck that ain't mono blue. So mathematically, it works out that you get mono blue more often than not, but it's a possibility. Not a likely, but it's a possibility, right? Mention, of course, this is the Graveyard Negate. You can use this from the grave, which is always good. This is a draw engine. This helps you, do the +1 ability to draw. The leader, you don't want to. Yes, the idea is not to awaken until you're forced to, which means don't activate the leader's active main to try to get down to 2 life and then awaken. No, let your opponent attack you. You don't have to defend as much because you okay with your opponent attacking you, because those cards are being added to your hand. Unless they have crit, then that's a different story. But if your opponent is hitting you, single strike, double strike, hitting your leader, let them hit it, and then you'll plus from that. And once you get to 2 life, then awaken, and then go from there. Don't deliberately try to self-awaken is what I'm saying. So don't try to awaken. Let your opponent force you to awaken, and then go from there, because this leader, I count it as having a second health bar, because once you awaken, then your deck becomes your life. And of course, that's why we play 60 cards, so we have lots of life. So every time you take damage, whether it be battle or effect damage, you mill top 5 cards of your deck per each damage. So if somebody deals you double strike damage, that's 10 cards. If they deal you triple strike, that's 15 cards. If they deal you quadruple strike, that is 20 cards off the top of your deck. And this is a 60 card deck, so obviously. So we mainly use hit for its +1 ability to draw, but ironically it's -1 ability, and you pay 2 blue if your leader card is Blue Universe 6 card and your opponent has 3 or more energy. Flip your opponent's leader face down. Now granted, this doesn't work with the leader, so we don't obviously get that effect. The reason I'm mentioning the effect is that this is a good out to this deck. This is a good weapon against my leader. So not a fan, but I'm gonna give you the information nonetheless. Don't really want people to use this against me, but it is useful, because all you have to do is use this to flip me back to the front, right back to the front side, and then finish me off, right? Then go for double strike damage, right? So definitely am concerned about this card. I was thinking like, oh man, this card's really gonna hurt my my Zamasu deck, right? Because I rely on being on the awakened side, and that's my advantage. But if my opponent takes away my advantage of being on my awakened side, then I'm back on the front side. Now they can beat me, which normally was hard to do. Not impossible. Now, another way to beat Zamasu, so let me give you some pro tip, right? Another way to beat Zamasu is not to deal damage, but to warp or send. So there's cards that can warp or send your opponent's life. So that's a way you can beat anybody who plays set to Zamasu, including myself. I play set to Zamasu, but typically most people don't have those types of effects, but it does. Like, for example, I'll point out that there's a what's his name, Splintering Mind, Black Man saying Splintering Mind. He warps life, right? And there's a couple other cards that have similar effects to him, where you warp your opponent's life. That can beat this leader, because you'll just warp the life. You're not dealing damage, you're warping the life. The 4-drop Super Saiyan Nappa, his effect is send a card from your opponent's life to the drop, so that's not damage. So that would be a way to beat Zamasu. I beat somebody that way one time. It was so weird that they allowed themselves to get down to 1 life and then awaken. I thought that was a little weird. Now when I think about it, it's like, I think he wanted that as card advantage, but didn't realize that that was his mistake. Because once I played my Nappa, that's how I beat him, was by sending that 1 life that he had left in his life. Because he had this was when decks were still up to 50. So, but anyway, that was his mistake there. But that's the point I'm making. It's like, this leader is really awesome, but it does have a weakness. It is beatable. You just got to know what you're doing. Another old school pro tip. This is a strategy we used to try to do back in the day. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Which was to get this leader down to 4 life, right? And more likely the person who's playing this leader is going to do the active main to try to get down to 3, right? Because they're hoping that the next turn they can get themselves down to 2 and then awaken. But you don't want them to do that. You want to attack them and finish them off. So what you do is you get them down to 3, only 4. They're going to do the active main, which brings them down to 3. And then the idea is, on your next turn, you try to go in for triple strike. And hopefully you succeed, because if not, next turn they're just going to awaken, right? So that was a strategy. Another strategy would be to get them down to 5 life, right? And then have a double strike and a triple strike, right? And then go in for the double strike damage, which will bring them down to 3, and then go in for the triple strike for gain. So that would be like the way you'll try to beat Zamasu. Just beat them before awaken. But a lot of times that'd be difficult, especially as people have stuff like what's it called? These counter negates, right? The negate blockers that we use, testing opposition, stuff like that, where you take a life and play for free. And we got the sparking negates, right? Take a life, play for free. So it gets a little harder to prevent this leader from dropping down to 2 and then awakening instantly, right? So, but it's still a possibility. Just giving you some pro tips on how to deal with this leader. But typically, I just like it if people don't even know how this leader works, and they think I'm going to win, and then I'm like, all right, awaken. Oh man, what? That leader does what? That's crazy. It's like, yeah, crazy good. Reddit's, of course, you could double block. It's a draw engine. This is a draw engine, this is a draw engine, plus this can block 2 attacks. I could potentially get rid of bounce one of your opponent's creatures back to the hand. This is double strike blocker. Has an auto where you -1, and your opponent's battle card, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of their deck. So it could potentially stop 2 attacks. And then it has, it's also a draw engine, because active main, draw a card. Start of your opponent's main phase. Switch this card and switch this card to active mode, and if your leader card is blue, which it is, choose one of your mono blue and switch it to active mode. So that way you could play your all too easy, especially if it's in the drop. Your Goku and Vegeta synergy, so there's synergy there. So extra protection. And then of course, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Protector of the Earth, with his auto and his -2 ability, lets you clear your opponent's board plus floodgate your opponent to make it where, in order for them to attack with their battle cards, they have to send one of their battle cards 2 costs or less to the bottom of their deck. So you know, that's the end of the video. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Obviously, you know, this deck doesn't other than Vegeta, but Vegeta is to really ramp for Treasure Overground and Fuse Zamasu, but you don't have a way to ramp to him or Android 17, so you will be you know, hard casting them, you know, the old-fashioned way. But this deck is very defensive, so it won't be that hard to get to turn 6, drop this to ramp, and then, you know, after that you could drop this if you want and still have stuff. Obviously what you'll want to do is play something, then drop this, because you're more likely will be at 6, 4, that's 10, you charge, so 11, so you'll be 11 energy by turn 7. So 11 energy by turn 7. Obviously you can, like, you can drop, you know, a 4 drop, 4 drop unison like this one, and then play Android 17, and that'd be a total of 11 energy right there. And then Android 17 does this ability where both you and your opponent take your hands, shuffle it back into the deck, and your opponent takes all the battle cards in their drop and shuffles it back into the deck. And then now, as long as your opponent doesn't have blockers, you should be able to attack with this to your opponent's leader, deal them crit damage, and then attack with your leader to their leader and finish them off if they just so happen to have only 2 life. So that is the obvious way of winning with Android 17 Turn Tide, which is why I called this Zamasu Android 17 Turn Tide. And that's the end of the video.